Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of They Don't Teach Us in Law School. I'm your host, Charlie Mann of law firm Alchemy. And my guest today, so I got introduced to this gentleman earlier this year, and getting the opportunity to meet him. You know, every now and then you meet a person where you're like, okay, one, yes, marketing mind is clearly there, absolute vibe on that. But the second thing is, I like this person. I really hope that I get a chance to meet this person in person, have dinner with them, hang out, talk life while talking shop, because they can just deliver as a human being and is clearly an excellent entrepreneur and marketer. And I think, I don't know, I haven't seen his name out there enough. I think he's like a hidden gem in the legal marketing world. I'm so excited to share him with our audience. And it's Bo Royal of Pareto Legal. Bo, welcome to the show.
Wow, Charlie, you're making me blush over here. Appreciate all the kind words. And yes, I do hope we get a chance to meet in person. It might not be this summer because as I just mentioned to you, I have my wife is pregnant and 6 weeks away from the due date. So
you'll be busy.
I'm about to kiss my routine and my sleep, goodbye for the next 3 to 6 months. But yeah, I hope we do get to meet, and I appreciate you saying all the nice things you just said.
Absolutely, Bo. So you get to answer the question, what's the one thing they don't teach you in law school?
I think, so I thought a lot about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just law school. I think it's school in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's how to deal with people. And I think it's the hardest thing in any field is dealing with people. I don't care if you're a rocket scientist or a lawyer or a bartender. But I think the hardest part of any job is people. I really do. And we just did a podcast recording. We were talking about leadership and management and how that's not something that's innate in a lot of people. And for me personally, I'm learning more and more every day about how to better deal with people and lead teams and manage folks. I think I'll be a lifelong student in that regard.
I think we all will. I'm curious, in your current journey as a student of leadership, what are you recognizing about yourself as a leader, either good or bad, that you think would be good lessons for others?
I am naturally more introverted. So I am not the kind of guy that, I want to go to the conference. I want to meet everyone and shake their hand. I'm kind of the more quiet person in the room. Maybe some people that know me would be like, really? Like maybe I'm more ambivert, but like it's not a question of am I social or not? It's just I gain energy from that alone time and that time to kind of process. So I do have to kind of lean into more uncomfortable scenarios sometimes, being an introvert, like speaking in front of large groups of people and things of that nature. And that's fine. And that's something I'll continue to do. And just being more willing to meet with my team more regularly. Like I am again, being more introvert. I don't see the value in having a lot of meetings during the day, right? Like I like having people know kind of what it is they need to be doing, work kind of their own schedule. I think that's really honestly what good management and leadership is like clarifying, hey, this is the direction we need to be rowing. This is kind of how you need to get from A to B. And then you just get out of your people's way and let them do their thing because you hired them for a reason.
Yes.
You hired them because they're smart and capable individuals. At that point, it's really your job just to let them be, let them figure it out, let them work through it. So that I've had to learn through continuous trial and error. It's very easy to fall back into that, I'm watching them make this mistake in real time. I need to swoop in and correct them before bubbles up into a bigger problem. And it's like, no, you have to get comfortable with your team making mistakes. And frankly, it needs to be encouraged. One of our shared values at our agency is we learn. And so we have 5 different shared values, but one of them is we learn, and there's specific language about what learning is. It's tolerated failure. That's what learning is. And so the way that I think about it is if you're not making little mistakes here and there, you're not truly learning. And in a
Oh.
digital marketing context, you have to be willing to make these little mistakes. And the good news is this: as a marketer, every mistake you make, so long as it's pre-planned, can be framed as a test, right? That's what testing is when you're doing it with like a landing page or a new campaign type or a new audience. As long as you're communicating with, the business that you're working on their behalf and saying, hey, this is something we're going to test. We don't know if it's going to work. It could completely fail, but we're going to try this in a vacuum and see if something interesting happens, something good happens, maybe something bad happens. But if anything, you can learn from that failure if it's a failure, or you can learn from it if it's a win, and the needle moves up this way, right? So I know that was kind of long-winded, but the thing that I am having to learn as a leader is basically just get the hell out of everyone's way and keep clarifying, this is where we're going. Let them make those little failures, those little tolerated failures. Obviously, look, if someone's making the same mistake over and over again, that's not that's more of a person issue. But as long as you're supporting them in the vision, you're clarifying what that is, you're helping build process, best practices, frameworks, so that the more and more people you bring in, they kind of understand the way to do things. I think that's a good sign of a competent leader, if you will.
What I love is like tucked away in there, Bo, as you mentioned, hey, if we're running like a test for someone, let's make sure that we're going to communicate with the client about that. And as soon as you said that particular phrase, I was like, oh, mental highlighter over that. I know I want to come back to it. That's a mistake that I think I see a lot of people make in many professions, is that proactive level of communication. Is that something that you like messed up on and then made part of the process, or something you've always been good at for your team?
I think I've been good at the proactive communication with my team. I think what I have struggled with, again, is swooping in too quickly, or feeling the need to like interject while they're working through a problem. And I'm going to learn this as a new father, is like you kind of have to let your kids trip over and bang their head into a wall and all that. It might be painful to watch in real time, but again, that's where learning and growth happens. Is like, okay, I know if I run into this wall, it's going to hurt, so I'm not going to do that next time, right? So it's gripping. It's not gripping as hard, and just kind of letting go and letting that learning, again, those tolerated failures happen. That's what I've struggled with the most in the 6 years that we've been an agency. But again, like anything, it's a learned skill. It's something that I continue to try to work on. And my goal as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, which I think should be a goal for a lot of business owners, is you need to continue to fire yourself from different parts of the business.
Yeah.
Right. And so that we just talked about this on another podcast that we recorded together. It's like a mindset shift. It's like, no, like I don't need to be the one to continue to do this. And frankly, there's probably a bunch of people out there that are better than me at this one thing or these set of things. Right. And so it's, once we hit certain milestones, it's like, oh, guess what? I'm not the one joining the sales calls, or I'm not the one, managing the P&L, or I'm not the one, doing this or that. Right. And so it's having that mindset shift of being willing to let go of the things that I had been doing historically, and then, bringing in the right people, helping them build some process, helping them identify what the process needs to be, so that handoff can happen seamlessly. But again, it's this business has been my my baby up until now, so to speak.
You were walking right into that one.
But I do think there are and I'm glad we're talking about this, because it's been top of mind. I didn't know the conversation was going to go in this direction, but like, I do think being a business owner has, in some respect, prepared me for being a father. Because, and to me, that is such an important, letting your team or your baby fail a little bit, make those mistakes, and not be like, oh gosh, I
Yep.
need to jump in. I need to jump in. Because if you do that, then the business becomes completely reliant on you. And same thing goes with, a child. It's like, the parents with 30-year-olds living in their basement these days, they're probably the parents that maybe gripped a little too hard.
Yeah. Well, you look at it, and in both cases, when you have someone who's holding on to it too much and doesn't want to let other people fail, it definitely comes from a place of ego.
Mm.
That's my experience. It comes from a
Yes.
place of ego. And there are parents who have that 30-year-old kid living at home where they probably don't understand the role that their own ego plays in it, that like, I'm still able to take care of my kid. My kid's 30 years old. Look at this 30 years of parenting my kid. I'm like, well, after 18, I'm ready to sweep them out the house. That's fine. The world can have them at that point. So I share some common traits with you. This introverted thing, even though I'm absolutely effervescent on many occasions. Truth is, I would be glad to just sit back with a cup of coffee and ruminate in order to recharge. So when you say, like, there are these interesting factors that I see with you, Bo, where you're an introvert, but you recognize the value of people, but you're also in the digital marketing space, which sometimes feels like it combats human behavior. How do you reconcile these different things? And what role does the human behavior and the liking of people play in your approach to digital marketing?
Wow, that is such a good question. I mean, again, I think there's this, us as introverts, I think people tend to think, oh, introverts mean they're just not social. They're not, like, they don't know how to hold a conversation, or they're not picking up on social cues or things like that. It's like, I think in some regards, I am very in tune with those
Hyper aware.
things. Right. Hyper aware. Exactly. So I think that hyper awareness has made me a better marketer, because I know what matters to people. I know the way they think. Not, yeah, again, if I can't go to a conference and, go around and shake everyone's hand, I'll be exhausted by the 10th person I meet. Right. But like, that still doesn't mean I'm very in tune with human psychology, the way that people think and make decisions. To me, that has made me not only a better marketer, it's made me a better like client relationship manager. Like, I'm very in tune with like what matters to our clients. I'm very in tune with like their different styles and personality types. And same thing goes with our employees. Is you can't have this cookie cutter approach to dealing with people. It's got to be customized on a one-to-one basis. You always have to be thinking that way. But yeah, I think in a broader application, like, we do a lot. I'll talk specifically about like our service. When we're onboarding a client, spend a lot of time in the first 30 days doing a ton of research. We're building ideal client profiles, like personas of like, hey, these are like the 2 to 3 different types of clients that you want to be going after. Because law firms, I think, and a lot of businesses, not just law firms, but marketers sometimes tend to think that all customers are created equal, but they're not. And if you analyze, demographics, psychographics, behavioral factors, you're going to see that there's like 2, 3, 5 unique personas. And I'll talk like from a Google advertising perspective, one thing we see is most of the lift or the results that we drive come from the lower 50% income bracket. But if you think about that for a second, it makes sense, because more affluent audiences, they're going to know lawyers. They might be lawyers. Their family members are lawyers. Their friends are lawyers. So they're going to rely more on word of mouth, whereas maybe a less affluent audience is going to be more inclined to turn to something like a Google search, a Chat GPT, a Perplexity, right? And they're going to use that as their source of truth to find an attorney. But the point being there is you need to have a very clear understanding of who it is you are marketing to across all those different factors that I just mentioned: demographics, age, gender, household income, psychographics, like what are their interests, what things are they, what hobbies do they have, so on and so forth. And then behavioral stuff is pretty straightforward, right? Like what types of sites are they going on to? Have they had some prior interaction with your firm's website or your ads, so on and so forth? And that's where like stuff like retargeting comes in. But we spend a lot of time on that up front so that we're not spending our clients' budget to figure it out as we go. There's still some element of that. Don't get me wrong. Like there's this misconception that good marketing is figuring it all out and then launching. I think it's the inverse. Like obviously you need to do your homework.
Yes.
But it's launching and then you start to figure it out, right? I'll use another analogy. It's like using like investment, like an investment analogy. I know the phrase is commonly said, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Yeah.
And so applying that to a marketing perspective, the longer that you invest in marketing, and not only invest in marketing, but you keep your kind of ear to the ground and like understanding what's happening and what's working and what's not working.
Yes.
It's just going to put your business in an increasingly better and better and better position over time. Right. And so I know I kind of touched on a lot of different things there, but going all the way back to your question, if you can't tell, like I think a lot about this stuff, and I think that's like my introverted nature. I live a lot in my head, right? And these are the things that we've, as a result of my frenetic brain, these are the systems and processes that we have in place to figure these things out before we launch and as we go.
So the demographic and psychographics, glad that you highlighted that. I do know a lot of law firm owners who they basically, personal injury being the prime example, who say, I just want people who are in a car accident. Like when you have that person, how do you help them understand, well, yes, and it would be better if we refined it? Like what do you do with that individual?
Well, you need to number one, we need to like look at what they're currently doing. So like how is the website structured? How is their branding? Let's look at like key landing pages. Like, are you running paid campaigns? And if so, where are you pushing most of that traffic? So it's starting with like a baseline understanding of where they're at. But, and we just talked about this earlier, getting the baseline understanding of where they're at and then figuring out where it is they want to go, right? So the delta between where they're at and where they want to go is where decisions need to be made and action needs to happen, right? So, but to answer your question specifically, for personal injury or like, let's say car accident, we might pull crash accident statistics in their given state and realize that most car accidents happen. And by the way, this is like true in most states. It's like males aged 18 to 24. That's a really like big segment, right? And I was 18 to 24 once.
Phase of life.
Right. If you saw yourself driving today as an 18 to 24-year-old, you would probably call the cops on yourself, right?
Yeah.
But point being is that you need to understand that demographic makeup first, and then you can kind of carve out unique tactics and strategies for reaching each of those different segments, right? Like it could be, okay, that 18 to 24-year-old males are a prime demographic for the picking. So what types of tactics now do we want to run for that? Well, first off, let's make sure that we have messaging and creative that speaks specifically to that audience. And with platforms like Google and Meta, it is so easy to target a male aged 18 to 24 within a given geography. Like if we want to just target Atlanta or the greater Atlanta DMA, Great. We can do that. We can pick these things. And then we can orient the creative to talk to that specific audience, right?
Yeah.
And it could be giving them information about statistics regarding car crashes, tips on how to make their driving safer. And that's more like top of funnel, right?
Right.
But then bottom of funnel, if you have an 18 to 24-year-old male in Atlanta that just typed in car accident attorney, there are things that you can do to be more visible on that query in the search result pages. You can literally layer in demographic bidding on a Google Ads campaign and bid more aggressively on that person. So it's pretty wild what the tools we have as advertisers today. But the learning there is you have to be very clear and you have to have a very precise understanding of who your clients are. And by doing that, you can orient your marketing efforts, your advertising efforts to get more of those types of clients. And I think another important part of it too is like also understanding why your firm might have a certain lean with other demographics. Like if you're a woman-owned business, if you're a woman-owned firm, maybe other women are more inclined to hire you, right? Like that could be an interesting factor. But it's like it's first understanding who my clients are and then kind of building some hypotheses around, all right, why do they like me? What's unique about me, right? It could be, based on the leadership. It could be based on the marketing. It could be based on something as simple as, well, our office is in the town center. And like, there's a lot of people that there's foot traffic there. They see our office every day, like stuff like that. But I hope that answered your question.
So what I like about what you're talking about, Bo, is at the end there, you're talking about these very specific, like targeted measures opposite the, so we might consider that heavy, more direct response or direct marketing category, opposite some of the more brand style tactics, the awareness level tactics, and the combination between the two of those. When you're working with a firm, you're handling digital side for them, are you suggesting to them anything on the offline side that they can do in order to be good partners in this relationship?
I love that question. It's the offline piece is incredibly important, not only for law firm agency partnerships, but just for the law firm in general. They need to have an infrastructure that enables them to attribute retained clients back to different tactics, right? Now, there's a lot of noise once we start talking about like branding, but there's different ways to measure the efficacy of those investments, right? So like bottom of funnel, that's fairly easy, right? It's like we got your Google ads, we got your Google business profile, we have your direct traffic, so on and so forth. You pretty much, it's so easy to be able to track that these days. You need to make sure that the UTM parameters, if you're using Google Analytics, which by the way, you probably should be, it's free, it's reliable.
Oh gosh, I hope so.
push that data into your CRM. And then that way you can literally follow the lead from, lead to qualified lead to retained client to hopefully, a successful settlement is reached. And then you can attribute that settlement revenue back to the originating marketing touch point, which really, it's not going to be the originating touch point. It'll be the last touch point, right?
Endpoint attribution. Yeah,
exactly. But then on the branding side, so if you're investing in traditional, you're doing OTT, you're doing print, right? That's where it gets a little messier. And the way that I'm recommending firms measure that, number one, you should still be asking prospective clients during intake, how'd you hear about us?
Yes.
It's a good qualitative type of data point to be pulling and looking at and looking at that alongside the last click UTM data that you have as well, right? Because an example would be someone might have come in on a Google search. They might have typed in, personal injury lawyer near me. But then when you ask them, how'd you hear about us? It's like, oh yeah, I've seen your billboards, or I saw your TV commercial. And in that instance, like there's a lot of different ways that you can assign credit. You can do fractional credit, like 50-50, like TV billboard gets 50%. The last Google click got 50%. You could do time decay type of model where, the most recent touch point gets most of the credit, and then the last one gets like lesser credit. It doesn't, there's so many different ways to look at this, but the reality is no matter what, attribution is going to be inherently flawed. It's directional. It's not a perfect system. Don't expect it to be. You will go crazy trying to make your attribution methodology perfect. It just won't happen, right?
Yeah.
But so that's one way to measure the branding is like the client or the intake surveys.
Yeah.
The other thing to do is just look at the macro, right? Like look at overall case volume over a given time series. Look at that by geography. Maybe, you might be in multiple markets within a given state, right? If you're in Texas is a great example. Texas is like 5 states in one.
Yes.
So you might have you might have an office in one market, and then you might have an office in a completely different market. And maybe you've added billboard TV and radio in a relatively new market, a market that you haven't established a foothold in, right?
Right.
Well, so isolate your data by that specific market. You should be able to easily see that by your digital spend, by your, traffic, so on and so forth. And then over, a quarter or two or, 4 quarters over the course of a year, have you started to see incremental leads? Have you started to see lifts in branded search, direct traffic? It's funny because it's like I'm basically telling you need to track all the way down to the micro, but then you also still need to be looking at the macro as well.
Yes.
And if you do that, you're ahead of the curve. Most firms are not. They're either doing one or the other. They're not doing both. If you do both simultaneously, you will be in such a great position because the micro level data enables you to make more real-time optimizations with those more direct response investments. But then looking at the macro helps you figure out how to make even bigger bets, with traditional advertising, with how you're allocating your budget by market, by practice area, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the direct attribution, I know one of the things that a lot of firm owners that I work with struggle with is attribution between paid digital and organic digital, which I refuse to refer to as free digital, as some people talk, because SEO is not free, it's effort, it's intensive, et cetera. And a lot of firm owners then come down with the classic question of, if I'm getting involved in digital marketing, where should I start putting my dollars? I'm curious for you, if a firm comes to you, do you prioritize SEO or digital, or how do you help make that decision? And if there's a firm that's maybe newer, like, oh, I have a limited budget on this, is there stuff that they should DIY? Like from a scope, from that type of scope, and I'm just going to turn it back over to you here. What are some suggestions that you have?
I think it really depends on where the firm is at in their life cycle. If you're a solo practitioner, you've just like stood up a website, you're looking to get some, leads in the door. Like, number one is make sure you have a Google business profile, make sure it's optimized, make sure that you're getting client reviews. I talk to so many firms and they're like, oh, we try to get reviews and people just don't do it. Like, no, there's a way to do it systematically. You just have to build the system and hold yourself accountable to it. And you don't have to, by the way, this might be frowned upon by me saying this, but you don't have to just get reviews from retained clients. Like, if you're doing intakes and you're helping prospective clients or maybe clients that you don't end up working with, you give them some helpful bit of information to get further to their resolution. And maybe you refer them to another attorney. You can still ask them for a 5-star review. Like, hey, I just spent 20 minutes on the phone with you. I just helped walk you through how to resolve this on your own. You don't even need to hire an attorney. You might be doing me a solid or writing me a quick review on Google. So the Google reviews thing it costs nothing except a little bit of time and effort, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I would say too is, for a smaller firm, locality is probably one of your biggest differentiators, right? If you're willing to lean into the fact that I am the more localized solution that's going to give you more staying power against a Morgan and Morgan or a Top Dog that's probably already in your market. And look, people aren't dumb. They know that those are the big box firms. They know like that's the McDonald's of law, right? But if you can establish yourself as like, no, I am involved in the community here. I have a like actual office that I go to and meet clients in. I think a lot of smaller firms can lean into that and get a lot of success. Is it going to enable you to go from, 2 cases a month to 200 overnight? Absolutely not. And frankly, nothing is going to do that. Nothing will do that. And even if you found a tactic to do that, it would break your business immediately, right? So you don't even have the infrastructure to be able to handle that many leads, phone calls, so on and so forth. If it's a little bit more of a mature firm, like maybe they have a couple of attorneys, they've built up a good referral network, and they're kind of looking to go to that next phase of growth, and they have some marketing budget that they're ready to deploy. I definitely would look at some of the more direct response tactics first, right? So, a Google pay-per-click, an LSA. I'd be looking at investing some of the budget into Meta, like at least doing some retargeting.
Yeah.
Definitely start making investments into SEO. And in addition to that, well, I kind of didn't even touch on like putting content out. I feel like it's so easy for lawyers to be doing content these days, so long as they're not shy about being on camera. Look, we're doing this podcast right now. Like we both know that this is one of the lowest effort mechanisms to generate a ton of content, right?
Yeah.
Like in terms of shorts, reels, we can transcribe this into text. It can be turned into newsletters. It can be turned into blogs. But what I'm getting at is like, as an attorney, you have so much knowledge and information up here. You just have to figure out different ways of transcribing all that knowledge either into video form or text form. And then once that's done, we're all spoiled now. We have ChatGPT, we have Grok, we have all these tools. And it's like you don't need a in-house copywriter to do this stuff for you. Just start recording yourself. Literally, it could be as simple as, answering when you're talking to a client, write down some of the questions that you're getting from clients, like the recurring ones. Oh, they're always asking me like, how much is my case worth? How is this being calculated? What like those 15, 20, 25 recurring questions, each of those is a great content piece. You talk about this stuff all day anyway. Turn the camera on, record it, hand it to someone that knows how to use ChatGPT. Frankly, you should know how to use ChatGPT at this point.
Please. And
it will turn that base content piece into probably 15, 20, 30 different content pieces, right? So I touched on a lot of things. I think I said Google Business Profile. I said lean into the locality, lean into the fact that you're a local solution. If you're a slightly bigger firm that's looking to make some initial investments or more investment, focus on the bottom of the funnel, focus on the direct response, Google tactics, pay-per-click, LSA, some retargeting, and then start putting more and more content out there. You talked before about like the fitness analogy, right? And progressive overload of, look, if you're trying to grow as a business, you either need to increase the reps or you need to increase the weight. Using that analogy, to me, like in a social media or digital context, like reps would be how much content you're putting out. And then the weight would be like the capital that you're investing in addition to that in the form of like paid advertising. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bo, if people are like, oh man, I should probably talk with Bo. I should learn more about what's going on over there. How do they best connect with you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Bo Royal. I'm pretty active on there. But if you want to book a call with me, I'd advise you to go to legal.paretoppc.com. It's got my Calendly link right there. You can book time directly on my calendar. The only thing I'll say, as I alluded to earlier on the call, I will not be available probably until July because I'm going to have a new human to look after. So it's going to be fun.
Worth investing the time into. All right, one final 3-part question for you, Bo. It's a simple one, though. What are you reading, watching, and listening to these days?
Oh, gosh, I'm not reading at all. I should be. I'm really bullish on podcasts right now.
Okay.
Just because like being in the car, it's really good to.
Yep.
It's just a good way to kill time and kill two birds with one stone, right?
Yep.
I'm really into Cal Newport's Deep Questions podcast.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, it's a lot about just how to orient your workday, how to basically work more efficiently and productively in today's
Mhm.
distracted modern world. I'm like really trying to learn that stuff now, becoming a new father, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to spend, 50, 60, 70 hours a week working anymore. So I really need to make sure that the work I'm doing is focused and high impact. And then what am I watching right now?
Yeah.
We just watched season 2 of Severance, my wife and I. It was awesome. I love
Yeah.
that show. Such an awesome
Great show.
cast and great story. But I'm sure I'm going to be watching a lot of TV over the next couple months. So if
You
you have
know
any
what?
recommendations, let me know.
If you haven't seen White Lotus season 3, that's a good one. I would definitely go with that. Let's see here. Oh, I just started watching Your Friends and Neighbors and The Studio on Apple. That's a good
Seth
one as
Rogen's
well.
show. Yeah.
That's a good one as well. That'll be a good way to pass the time. And the best part is when they're newborns, you can watch all of the insane stuff that has all the adult language that you want until you hit that cutoff point. So enjoy that, and congratulations to you and your wife. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Bo, my friend, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to more conversations in the future, hopefully meeting you in person at an event or just however it might happen. That would be fantastic. I appreciate you, Bo.
Thank you, Charlie.
And we'll see you all in the next episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School.